Yasas! I'm Demetri Panos, and today on the Popcorn Talk Network Anatomy of a Movie, we will be discussing, of course, my big fat Greek wedding. There you go.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Hello, that was awesome. Well, yes, everybody, and yes, my name is Demetri Panos, host of today's Popcorn Talk presents Anatomy of a Movie. And of course, with the music behind me and the Hito underneath the table, we are going to be dissecting and talking about the long-awaited sequel, and by long-awaited, took 13 years to make sequel, My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2. So, along with me today, the very lovely, beautiful, talented, gifted, and educated, I have to the very, very far right of me, that would be left on your screen, Marisa Serafini.
Hello, everyone. All those adjectives were for me?
Oh, hey. And, well, say hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you.
And then you two, we've never done this before, so I'm going to say
but
you
we've done many other things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Shh.
We have.
Hush.
Don't
You're
speak
welcome.
a word.
So, LoGrasso, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Honored to be here and to speak about all the Greeks.
Yes, and speak about all the Greeks and the weddings and the families. So we're talking about My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Two.
Dose.
So, you know, as we always open up this show, we're going to start off with you, Marisa. Let's talk about our opinions of this movie, of the sequel.
I thoroughly loved this film. I was a humongous fan of the first one when it came out. I was one of those people who watched it 1.5 million times, saw it twice in theaters. So I was a big fan of the first one. And then I was so equally excited knowing that the second one came out, and then when I went to the theaters, I was equally excited just to watch it again, and I had high fun expectations for the film, and it hit every single one of them. And I was laughing like no other, and it takes a lot to get me laughing, and I thoroughly enjoyed this film, and I'm really excited to talk about it.
Great.
So, yeah, I'm excited.
Opa.
I loved it.
Opa! Spanakopita! I loved it. I loved it as well. It was a very emotional film for me on multiple levels. So I laughed a lot, but it also reminds me of my own family. I'm an only child girl, and my mom and dad take care of my grandparents. So have taken care of. My mom still takes care of my grandma. So there's a lot of emotional connection I felt to it. But the first 15 minutes, I could not stop laughing. I thought I was going to have to be carried out of there because I was going to be in so much abdominal pain from the laughter that was coming. So really great job with the writing, and I was really impressed.
Good. Well, when you and I were talking about prior to coming in here, I said I'm going to do my opinion in my Greek accent. So here we go. Being that I am the token Greek on this panel, at the very least, so. When first hearing doing a sequel to a movie opened 13 years ago, I said, Tikanis Vremori, yeti, why is this happening? Too long, how could it be any good? And so I went to go see it, and I found this sequel to be funnier than the original. Yes, funnier than the original. There you go. So, well, I found that it was, simple, and some could argue perhaps trite. You go, movie, to me, at least wisely shifts focus from romance to the actual family matters. And let's face it, this Greek family is funny. And I have a Greek family, and they are funny too. So, I say this as a Greek, finding myself, I was on the outside looking into my own family traits, traditions, and craziness, though my mother would argue about the craziness part, opa. So let's get this started. I found this movie to be very funny. I was laughing way more than I anticipated in this movie. And again, I do think that it was wise. Let's switch to Family Matters. We're going to make this even more. This was a character comedy. Like, and everybody was characters, but not caricatures, especially growing up in a Greek family. It didn't pander. And I was like, wow. Nia Vardalos getting the team back. I go, this worked. I would be on board for part 3. That's how much I like this movie.
Oh, for sure. I think it's maybe fair to say that all of us would be, because it seems like we all loved it. What I liked is that with such a big ensemble in the first movie, it's usually hard, especially with so much time that has passed between these two movies, is now that with so many people that was in the first one, it's so hard to get the same exact people for the second one. And they all gladly came back.
Yeah.
And that's such an amazing feat.
Yeah, they did gladly come back, and you're right. I mean, when you're talking 13 years, there are some people in the cast who 13 years ago, people can say that they were old, right?
And now they're really old.
Yeah, and I mean, Michael Constantine
How old
himself
is
is
he, though?
88 years old.
He did such an
He's
incredible
88,
job.
and he has not done another feature film since the original My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Wow. He's done a little bit of TV. He's done some short films.
He hadn't even worked since 2010. I was looking at his IMDb.
So, I mean, to get him to come back, like, is an amazing testament, I believe, to the property, to Nia Vardalos and team, and Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson, the production team, Playtone, getting them back. I mean, Lady Kazan. I mean, no, and again, I don't mean disrespect, but we're not talking people, they're pretty much like they're happy to be working, but they're happy to come back. From all interviews I've seen and read, everybody just like, as soon as Nia Vardalos put out the call, it was like, yes. So, yeah, it was great. It was good. It was such a good cast, and amazing that they all came back.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's just a testament to like who they are and how much they loved doing the original, and how much the original meant to them, that it left such an imprint on their lives and just in the industry itself. I mean, no one really expected that movie to be as big as it was, the first one.
Right.
That just broke records and like astounded everyone, and I think that had such a positive influence on them and such a big impact that they wanted to come back and just for more, just to have fun.
Yeah, and just going back, Lady Kazan in an interview had said that she almost turned down the original. And it wasn't, she almost turned down the original. It wasn't like it was a lot of money going into it. And, she wasn't quite grasping, but she was looking at all these other people who were doing this. And she's like, oh, what the hell? Like, if they're doing it. And then she says, best time of my life. He goes, we felt like family. We would sit together, eat together, we would joke together, rehearse, and so coming back, and this is one thing that I really think that this movie does great, coming back, everybody, including Lady Kazan, looks to be having a really good time together. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that is so important for a movie like this. Like, everybody had a big smile on their face. They were ready to perform and step up and have just fun.
And what I liked is that when everyone came back, they were exactly who they were 12 years ago.
They didn't miss a beat.
Yeah. And it was exactly everyone's expectations of these characters that we fell in love with such a little time on screen. Mm-hmm. And then they did the exact same thing for such a little time on screen. But they all had their moment. Right. And we were like, yep, that's Nikki. That's, whoever. That, it was so fun to see the same characters with so much time.
It was. And I'm gonna take it a step further. I think that the movie, that this particular sequel, that My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2, really owes a lot to its veterans like Mr. Constantine, like Lady Kazan, like Andrea Martin. I really do think that they ended up being the backbone of this movie a lot. And you're right, their characters hadn't changed much outside of getting a little older, but our main characters, Tula and her husband, played by John Corbett, a lot have changed in their lives that we see right from the opening of the movie, which again, to me, hysterical opening. Coming out, it's winter in Chicago.
Oh,
with the Windex,
and it's brutal in Chicago.
It is
brutal.
It's colder than anywhere.
And then
brutal.
Backs out, goes next door,
and
picks up,
yeah,
goes next door, picks up, and then goes. And each house was more Greek than the other, where one just looked like a Greek church with the dome on top. I was like that's very funny. But yeah.
I loved it. It was so smart because if you remember, like, the first one started off, Tula's in a car, and it was the exact same beats, and then we immediately got a Windex reference, so people from the get-go were already laughing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before anyone started talking.
Right. Right.
Demetri,
Yeah.
the Windex thing, is that real in Greek culture, or is does every family have their own version of Windex?
Nah, I mean, I use Windex to clean windows, maybe a floor. I'd never put it on I hate putting alcohol on a scrape. Windex really
you never
burns.
put it on your hip to make it feel better?
I never put the Windex on my hip, then settle the what he's
try
doing.
that.
But, at
Other
this point,
Midwest
what could help?
Try Windex on a frozen
Although,
car.
Windex
Let us
does
know.
actually,
That works?
Does it work?
Windex on a frozen lock. On a frozen lock.
Well, there's my
Can help.
antifreeze properties.
So,
now
but-
I know, and that's so much cheaper than the stuff I've been buying.
But there are Greek remedies that like my grandfather, who I'm named after, his Greek remedy was ouzo. Ouzo for everything.
Oh, that's
Ouzo.
an alcohol, right?
Yeah.
It's rocket fuel. Let's
tastes like
be
licorice,
clear.
right?
It tastes like rocket fuel if you've ever. Yeah, I mean, I've never drank rocket fuel, but that's ouzo. That was his remedy for every. It was
Would
his
he give it to you
medicine.
as a kid as well?
Oh, absolutely. It was his medicine.
Have some
Demetri,
ouzo.
he goes, oh, I have to have my medicine. My medicine, he would start off every day. Come on. And this isn't alcohol. It's clear, but it changes the properties of water. When you put a little bit of water in it, it turns white. Anything that can change the property, the color of water like that.
Can't be
Yeah,
good
that's
for your
ouzo.
stomach.
No.
It was great for
The
my
lining
grandfather.
of your intestine.
Can't
It was
be
great
good
for him,
internally.
So
And
each Greek
Dominique
family, I
in the
believe,
live chat
has
loved your
has their own quote unquote remedies.
Yeah.
So and Gus's remedy, and you're right. As soon as that Windex bottle comes out,
You're like, we're back
instant
in.
recall, and you're back in. And it was a great way to not only reintroduce us to the characters that we knew and loved, but to introduce our new characters, our new cousins and nieces
The
and
little
nephews.
ones, yeah.
I thought it was great. The the conversation about how Greeks invented hockey.
Oh my gosh.
Greeks invented everything.
Yeah, I know. And I loved how they took because Gus was so well known for always explaining Greek origins, and I loved how they kind of passed that
Oh, yeah.
to the next
Chimichanga.
generation. And now the kids saying
Yeah.
it, and he's so Greek.
He was dead on, too.
Dead on.
and-
There you go.
There you go. There you go. So,
you go.
and what I find interesting is, and this was something that crossed my mind. It's usually, what the hell did it take so long to make a sequel to My Big Fat Greek Wedding? You
yeah,
figured that
everyone's
would have
asking
been fast-tracked, like, immediately. And upon, like, looking into it and reading about Nia Vardalos, everything made sense. Number one, I'm sure she didn't want to be just stuck as the My Big Fat Greek Wedding person. The origins of this start off, I mean, it was a one-woman show that she did, which is very funny. And as a Greek, somebody actually, I saw her one-woman show on a recommend saying, oh, if you're Greek, you're going to love this. If you're not Greek, you're really going to love it too. But being Greek, you're going to love this. And I remember seeing it before there was ever a movie. I'm like going, oh my God, she nails it. That's my family. And what's weird is how yes, it is everybody's Greek family. Like, they are all stories like that. And for going back to story for Nia Vardalos, what I was reading is after the original My Big Fat Greek Wedding, she didn't have a story. She didn't have a life story that she felt would do justice to a sequel. And it took her and her husband, Ian Gomez, they adopted a child.
Yeah.
And it was from the adoption and her being a mom. And I love the story. She was taking her girl to her first day of school, and some
Kindergarten.
a kindergarten, and some woman, who was also dropping their kid off, said something to the effect of, "Oh, can you imagine in like 17 years, like we're dropping them off to school, and next thing you know, we're going to be dropping them off to college." And she started having heart palpitations, and she couldn't breathe. She's like, "Oh my God!" She became the Greek suffocating mother. Like she was like, "Oh my God!" And at that instant, she's like, "I have my story." She goes, "I have my story," and she went to go write it. And I'm like, going, "That's really funny." Like, you just never know where that inspiration's gonna come from.
Yeah.
And to me, that's and it took her about 3 weeks. She kept on going back and forth. And
Yeah,
I love that.
I really enjoy that because it makes sense when she was writing the first one. That was kind of like a testament of her life at that point,
Right.
And a reflection, and is more so. It was kind of like a self-biography in a way, writing her life onto the pages. And then I completely believe that because the second one has a more mother nature or a mother nurturing kind of
Yeah.
feel to it, especially from Tula's perspective.
Right.
And Nia said herself, like, she couldn't get herself emotionally into that, explore the emotions of motherhood because she herself wasn't a real mother yet.
Right.
And then once she was a mother, and then she had that moment dropping her kid off, it was like, yeah, she completely understands. She knew she had a story.
Yeah.
Because she can actually write to that feeling.
From
Right.
the truth.
And from the truth. Go ahead.
She's spoken about how she only writes from her truth. So,
Right.
and that's the best way to write, because anything else, I mean, yes, you can create things, but it also has to come from some part of you. So she is an extremely authentic writer. She even said that movie she did where she was supposed to be like a cross, or what was it? She was pretending to be not a cross dresser. I don't remember, but she was like a stage performer.
Right.
She said that was coming from some side of her as well. So like every movie she does is based in some part of her reality. So it makes sense that she would wait. But didn't they also do a My Big Fat Greek Wedding series?
They did.
It was
that
a
got
very
taken
short.
off the air?
Yeah, it was a very
Very
short-lived series. I don't even think that it made it a season.
So I would think that would have been a factor in holding her back from doing a new one too, because like that didn't really progress in the way maybe they thought it was going to, and so they didn't maybe want to ruin the legacy by doing a new one as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring up the series, because upon watching the movie, the original My Big Fat Greek Wedding, there are parts of it that one can easily point out and say, that's very sitcom-ish. That's television comedy writing, not necessarily for the big screen, but it didn't matter obviously to the movie-going audiences. And so I felt that going into the sequel, yes, it's simple. It's a simple story. There's no raunch to it, and I'm not being a prude here, but it was sort of a breath of fresh air that you can take a family to this movie. Oh, yeah. You can understand all the beats going on, whether you're Greek or not. And it's a quote unquote, it's a safe comedy that actually happens to be funny and proves that it can be funny without relying on a hand job joke or a fart joke or something like that. It's a clean comedy.
Yeah.
And it works. At least for me, I really did find this to be funny, and I walked out going, they don't make these kind of movies very often because they're trying to get younger audiences in, which I understand. I like myself a train wreck too. But
that's the sad thing, because the younger demographic is so conditioned to dirty sex jokes and less, shorter time, attention spans and stuff. And it's really, really sad because our generation, Lauren and I, we are the younger people, we enjoyed it when we were kids, when the first one came out. And I feel like the kids now who are like teenagers, they probably wouldn't appreciate this movie as much as we did at that age. Because times just changed so much.
Agreed. It almost has a Disney-esque quality to it when you think about
Disney.
that. Yeah, no, same here. But when you think about its innocence in this movie, that's sort of kind of what it is.
But there's enough dirt that you're not like, oh, come on.
Well, yeah, and again, we're talking about we're talking about like Andrea Martin's on Vula, who is just fantastic. But it never goes overboard, and it's just the right amount, and it's so impeccably played by the classy Andrea Martin. So why don't we
a dream come true.
So we talk about a little bit of the writing, the inspiration for making this, and then from there it's about, once she gets the idea, she gets the script, the first person she goes to, which I thought was great, was John Corbett. And she's like, I have the sequel to My Big Fat Greek Wedding too, I'm gonna send you the script. And he's like, what took you so long?
And I think one of the things she also said was like, hey, do you feel like kissing me again? He's like, always, babe.
Yeah.
It's so sweet.
They have such good chemistry. I was like, let me just fan myself a little bit.
Well, they really do. And again, it's a testament to the original that this cast had such chemistry and so got along. Because when you see them in interviews today, this is 13, 14 years later, they're still just as happy as being in this movie. And John Corbett, as you said, the chemistry is still there between these two.
I know. I'm like, you guys should think about doing it. No, don't cheat. No cheating. That's bad.
Well, let me ask you this, though, because this is one aspect of the movie that I was actually sort of kind of happy they didn't really do. I don't mind that they show that they've sort of kind of grown apart. They're having the daughter and focusing on their daughter growing older, right? So there's a little bit of trouble, but it's not what we're conditioned to see, the arguing. Like, we're not arguing parents, they're still loving parents.
Yeah.
You know that within them they love one another, but the focus wasn't on a dysfunctional family because like they've grown apart, that
It
they
was
were
a disconnected family,
disconnect.
in a way.
But I didn't feel that they were going down the divorce route.
No, they just didn't
never.
stop focusing on each other first, and they put all the focus on the child. And I thought that was actually really interesting what Andrea Martin's character, is it, and how do you say it? Vula?
Aunt Vula.
Vula.
Aunt Vula said?
Yeah.
You were a girlfriend first.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of parents do lose sight of that. I love my parents so much, and I appreciate it because it came from such a good place, but I know that they focus all their energy on me. Whereas...
And you were an only child,
And I was an only
too,
child, so that was really intense.
That helps.
I felt the daughter's pain, for sure. But it's important for a kid to see a good example of a relationship. So I thought it was really great that they tried to reignite that and reconnect with each other, because that can be just as important for your child's health.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought that the movie handled it well, because I think to get an audience emotionally vested, that sometimes they go the cliche route and they make them that they just...
Yeah.
Oh, they've fallen apart and they're arguing. They're always at each other's throats. But this didn't do this, and they at least addressed it in an adult way. I sort of kind of also enjoyed how we're seeing this through their daughter's eyes. Oh, in fact, I wish that there was a little bit more of seeing the Greek family growing up Greek through the daughter's eyes. But I enjoyed her arc as she was going through this story as well.
I mean, I get that too, and it's always tough to always be a new character in an already large ensemble.
Right.
But I think we got enough of it,
Yeah.
and we understood what she was going through, and just her frustrations of people always being around her. I get that too, and I'm glad they didn't hit it over the head. It was just enough. I mean, I think it was actually a fine balance of, it's like, well, how much more can you tell the audience like she's being suffocated by her own family?
Yeah, and and again, growing up Greek, it's it's the Greek way. Like there were things like even to this day, I will tell you that I hated having to go to Greek school. I had to go to Greek school. I had to learn about my culture, and this happened like Tuesdays and Thursdays and every other Friday.
Wow, that's intense.
Yeah, right after my regular school, where all my friends were going out and playing, and I had to go back to school again.
Oh, that is brutal.
So I hated Greek school, and I would do anything to get the hell out of class. And the biggest irony in my life is my God-given name is Demetri. I was named after my grandfather. And when I go into Greek school, now all through American school, elementary school, people... Can I call you Jim? Can I call you Demi? Can I shorten your name? I figured.
Why Jim?
Jim is the translation. My grandfather who came over on the boat, he came over, they went to Ellis Island, his name's up
Greek.
there. It's all Greek.
He's waving. He's here. Hey.
He's like Demetrios, and when he came over, Demetrios, and they said, okay, you're going to be James. So
That is so bizarre.
Demetri got
From
translated
Demetri to James.
Yeah.
See, to me, I grew up in Detroit with a lot of Greek, so Demetri is just a normal name to me.
Yeah, it got changed. It got changed to James. So we went by James Panos. Yeah, he went James Panos. But when so
I feel
all
bad
through
for
American
Grandpa
school.
Demetri.
Well,
No, trust me, he had a wonderful, amazing life. He's strong like bull, and he would prove it to you every day. He'd slap you in the back.
Oh, good.
In any case,
Thanks, Em.
where I'm going to
I'm learning
is like,
so much about you, Demetri.
going into Greek school, like much like Paris, having to deal with all of this and like, oh my God, suffocating. The one place I figured they'd get my name right is in Greek school, and my teacher would call me Jimmy. And I go,
the
are you
heck?
kidding me? I'm done with this. I'm going,
A little respect is all we require, folks.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
so
I
you know
get
what
the
it's like.
suffocating.
Greek
Yeah.
school is painful.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Paris had her years, and like you could just tell that she's like, these like just seeing the Greek family and not appreciation like the craziness that comes along with it. But it was as the movie went on, like she's sort of kind of like, especially when she found out about her grandparents. That to me was the turning point of the movie, because she's like, wait, they're not married? What? No, and she was actually, to me, she looked affected by this.
Yeah.
Like, how can,
I would have liked to see a little bit more softness in her name is Elena's performance in Paris.
Elena Campouris.
Campouris. Elena Campouris. I would have liked to see a little bit more in the beginning because I just felt all this anger, but I didn't feel
she's a teenager.
Any love. And I know that, and I get that part, and I liked the turn that we saw when she was deciding where to go to college and with the whole grandparents thing. I thought that was really nice, but that there weren't enough dimensions for me. Like, I didn't see where the anger was coming from, like the love that it was coming from, because usually anger comes from a softer, more hurtful place. I didn't see where that pain was coming from.
I don't think it was anger. I see it more as a frustration.
Yeah.
Just general frustration that maybe like it can kind of borderline anger.
Which I get, but it never let up. You know, for me, like I've definitely been in that position before, but I have moments of softness where I'm like, I'm so sorry I'm being such a terrible monster right now. This is why. And I guess I never saw that with her. But again, you're right. She is a teenager, so I guess there's not as much introspection going on.
And you can tell, too, that she was doing everything to not look or be Greek.
Yeah.
You know, going into school.
Eye makeup and all that.
And I just love the, and again, this is a movie of characters and certain dialogue. And it's like, when she announces that, when the whole family comes to the college, the convention at the school,
the college,
and she's like, I'm applying to New York, to Boston, to Florida, nowhere near Chicago. And then Tula's like, why would you do this to me? And then the father's talking about payback. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what, Greek guilt is.
So the Greeks have the guilt too.
Oh, I don't want to get slammed with this. Yeah, the Jewish people do not have the corner of the market of guilt. I mean, Greek guilt can rival.
Yeah,
it can.
Italian Catholic is pretty intense as well.
Bad too.
Oh my goodness, yes.
But let me,
Greek guilt. It does have that alliteration, so I'd assume it's strong.
Greek guilt, and they try to pretend that they don't know what they're doing. Oh,
I didn't say nothing.
Yeah, they try to pretend, but you get like, and in this movie you just see it. It's like payback, and it's like, why are you doing this to your mother? It's like they.
It's the moment where she literally became her parents that she so didn't want to be in the first movie.
Right.
And it's just like life imitating art in a way. And I think it was just so creative that showed how much Tula has grown up too and embraced her Greek culture to the point where now she's also passing that on to her generation, her child's generation.
Right.
It's very smart.
Yeah. So, I just found that to be a very interesting dynamic. I like I said, I wish we could have seen it a little bit more through her eyes. But then again, we throw in the other plot thing about, like, I was wondering, what are we going to do for my big fat Greek wedding? This girl is too young because I saw the trailer. So give me about her. This is like why my big fat Greek wedding too? There's going to be a wedding with who?
Has to be.
And I sort of kind of like that. Those to me was, again, people could argue that it was a trite plot point, but looking at the marriage certificate and it wasn't signed by a priest, they haven't been married, and we have to get married. I thought that and again, the stubbornness of Gus, the Greek man. I found that to be hysterical.
Before that, I actually loved the moment where, because Gus is trying to figure out his life ancestry tree.
Was so funny.
Which led up, and I get it when you're watching like the same thing in a scene over and over and over, and you can only cut it so many ways.
Right.
But the fact that family is so big, and he kept going through every single family member to help him on a computer that's so already antiquated, the version he was on.
The mouse was square and from 95.
Windows XP from 2002 when the first movie came out, and I think that was on purpose too. But
bigger than my HP laptop.
It was just so funny how watching everyone just come in and out of that room, still trying to help Gus. I was like, I would have taken the keyboard and typed in that information for him, but they let him do that, and they played out that joke to the point where he realizes he's not even married.
yeah, and the older Greeks in technology. Right there, like my mom with her iPhone, like her idea of swipe is a swing. How does this not work? Like, why doesn't this work? Well, number one, you don't have to stab it. You can just press it. And it's like, you've had the iPhone for 10 years now. Maybe not 10
My
years,
mom's
but
the same
it's
way.
like, it's so funny. So to see Gus, mouse, put your hand over it. No, a little bit farther back. Yeah, it was great. And again, Michael Constantine's performance in this was great. Like, it never gets overblown. Like, it plays real, and that to me is what makes the comedy in this movie like very, very funny, and all of the characters. So, do we want to talk about? Let's talk some of the cast. We already talked about.
Let's.
We already talked about Michael Constantine, 88 years old, decides to come back. I mean, I think it's fantastic. You know, you need the patriarch. And he made this character, he was this character.
So beautiful.
You know, and nobody was going to take this.
Yeah.
Nobody could fill those shoes. If he decided not to come back, they would have had to have said that
Absolutely.
passed.
What
And that
I-
would have been hard to do.
Yeah, what I loved about Gus is because from the first film, he was established as like he's the hierarchy and don't mess with him. It has to come from his perspective. He always seemed like the serious one.
Right.
And then he coming back into this one, you saw him drunk a lot of times. You saw a whole more fun side of him that we didn't see from the first
Right.
one. And I was like, yeah, I completely believe he's Greek.
Absolutely.
And he just seems so more likable.
Yeah.
In this one than he did in the first
Yeah.
one. But
Yeah,
I
he
loved
was-
him in the first one too.
Yeah, and this is why I really focusing on the family a little bit more and not having to deal with the romance and getting
relationship so
everybody
much,
together. I really like that, but it also shows the Greek stubbornness
Mm-hmm.
about how to you're going to propose to me. Why? We've already been married. What are you No, like that whole thing is like I completely sorry.
Right.
Like there
And
was
that's just
nothing
a
with the
pattern with all guys. It's like, do you really think you're going to win with this one, guys?
No.
No, just do it because you're going to be. I was going to say something that's a little inappropriate, but you're going to be on the couch for a long time. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If you just don't give us what we want. So give us what we want.
Yeah.
Come on.
Happy wife,
A proper
happy
proposal.
life.
That's all
it's not
she's
much
asking
to
for.
ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And
But-
I think also to the stubbornness is that we also got his brother into the story with a family
Yes.
that's so close, this Portocalos family that's so close, and then to know that the hierarchy is having his own problems with his brother.
Right.
It's just ironic that he would be having family problems that we wouldn't know of.
And again, the family that type of a family issue is leaving the mother country. I mean, leaving the mother country to come to this country.
You incur some
You know?
judgment from that.
Well,
for sure.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I look at my mom. As a hero in a sense because she came to this country. I believe she was 17, 18 years old, not knowing a word of English at the time, and she only came as a vacation. She was invited to come along on a vacation. She just ended up staying. She didn't get on that
Good for
ticket
her.
to go back to Greece, and she went to school. She learned the language. She eventually met my dad. She got a job. She did what the country has to offer and such. And but she still keeps her Greek heritage. Like again, she's so Greek that she can't just call Boston a beautiful city. No. Boston is the Athens of America. That's what it is. It always has to relate back to Greece. Always.
There you
though
go.
she-
That's
there
her
you
home.
go.
That
You know,
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Boston is the Athens of America. And so, yeah, but but by making that move, it upset some people. It angered some people, much like Gus's brother.
Right.
Like making the move to America to start up a family. And he's like, hey, I wanted you to come with me. I found that to be I found it to ring true. But I guess somebody could argue that their reconciliation may have happened too quickly. Nah.
I think it was perfect.
I think that...
I thought it happened fast, but I was actually okay with it.
Yeah. And everything can...
Because the story still moved forward.
Yeah.
After
And
that.
I think in life in general, most family issues are like that. You go between being super upset with someone and saying, like, I love you so much, you're my family. Then you get back in that anger mode. It's complicated. So I can see how anything would be true. in
Yeah,
that
and over
situation.
Uzo,
Yeah.
After that,
Oh,
you
Maruso.
forget everything.
It's a cure-all, as we
Yeah,
found
it's a
out
cure-all.
earlier.
So, so Michael
kill-all, there
Constantine was fantastic. Well, we'll talk about John Corbett coming back. Obviously, he was a big proponent for doing this movie. And again, he just looked happy to be.
He's so relaxed when he's acting.
That's the thing.
Yeah, it's just he's gotten ease to him, and it's really easy and fun to watch him on screen.
My only thing with him is I wished that they had. This is gonna sound weird. I wish they like cut his hair. Like he had the same hair he did 14 years ago, and I'm like, nah, I don't know. 14 years has passed. Like
I liked it.
I'm not saying that.
I liked it.
Everybody, yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I think
baby.
it was kind of just maybe.
Everybody else looked to have changed a little bit, except for him.
Right. I mean, I was actually okay with his physical appearance because it still showed that he's still the same Ian.
Yeah.
He didn't become a dad. He didn't become angry. Now he's a principal, still taking in a school environment. He's still doing what he loved to do. And like I liked it because it showed he hasn't changed even after all these years.
Right. Yeah, and again, the chemistry that he and Nia have together, I think, the first movie wouldn't have been the success that it is without that, I believe. So, and then of course the matriarch Maria, Eleni Kazan, this is a classic actress, singer. She's amazing, and her comedic
She
chops.
is so beautiful
Yeah,
too.
she's
I
just
have to
funny
say,
too.
Yeah,
She's funny.
Just puts her whole heart into it.
Yeah.
You can tell that she is, and not that she's pushing, not at all. She's just acting with every bone of her body from her gut, and you just feel she's putting so much into it. And I really enjoyed seeing her.
And she's hysterical, and you. The other thing that you love about her character is that she stands up to her husband Gus. Mm-hmm. She's
All the
listen.
time.
She's just as Greek too. She could make but
Two complaints game.
yeah, it's like I can be stubborn, and you know what? Yeah, let's see what happens when I'm not giving you your pills or giving you your breakfast. Or
Doing
I'm
your
the
laundry.
employee. You can't tell the employee. I'm just an employee. Like that stuff was funny. That was great.
Yeah, and I loved how she really embraced this character because even her character had more to do in this film.
Yes.
But it was still in the same vein of what her character is, the mother hen, still taking care of everybody else, still taking care of Gus, but still being that strong woman and saying what she wants.
Yeah.
And still being, the motherly figure to Tula. And I was like, I loved Lady Kazan's performance because she had just so much heart, and you can tell all of her scenes she was just having fun.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. And, behind a Greek family, you always have a strong matriarch. And I always loved, especially in like the first one, they're like going, okay, we have to think of the way to make it sound like it's his idea.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And that's that thought process.
On the neck.
Yeah, that thought process carries through in this movie, I think, very well. Now I want to just jump to someone who's been a favorite of mine. I think that this woman is a classy comedian, Andrea Martin. This woman, I grew up watching on a show called Second City Television. This was a show that would... And many people would say that it competed in a sense with Saturday Night Live. It was a Canadian show. A lot of people, John Candy, Eugene Levy, Andrea Martin, they come from, Rick Moranis comes from this troupe, Second's SCTV. And it was on Saturday nights. And in some territories, it would be up against Saturday Night Live. It never got the notoriety until much later on because you were going up against John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray kind of thing, right? But Andrea Martin was hysterical. Always was, and I always, she was always one that's like, how come she isn't bigger? She should be bigger. I love this woman. She was always funny, classy, and in My Big Fat Greek Wedding, when you see her, she's Greek. She's as Greek as anyone I know.
She's fantastic.
And she's fantastic. And in this movie, like Lady Kazan's Maria, they give her more to do, and she's like, I'm in charge. No, I don't think so. I'm in charge.
And no one's really arguing.
Fantastic. Yeah. And,
Yep.
And
I died. She was my favorite part of the movie.
She really takes over, and she was
Literally.
great, literally. And of course, like there's the whole chat about remember, you were a girlfriend once, and that whole, and then the teddy, and then that's enough, and then you're welcome. Shave everything.
Shave everything.
I mean, and then I'm like, okay, she's going for it in her life too. Good for her.
Yeah, but I
Good for
love her
Aunt Vula.
character had, as funny as she was, she did have moments of wisdom that she passed on to Tula.
Absolutely.
It's like, where is this
Not
coming
just to
from?
Tula, but
yeah,
to
to
John
a lot of
Cooper.
people.
Yeah,
but like
absolutely.
in the first one, it was always, you know, joking at Ian coming into the family and whatnot. But this one, she had more moments of just being like straight up serious. It's like, yes, listen to this
Yes.
woman. She knows what she's talking about.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and she's great. And then there was something else that came up in this movie. Maria says, remember Paris, protecto Polaki, eyes open, knees shut. And then Aunt Vula says to Maria, if your knees are open, shut your eyes. The word Polaki is now this I grew up hearing Polaki. It didn't mean what Polaki in this. Polaki is a little bird. A little bird.
Oh,
I
like, so they're
thought-
talking about the vagina being the little bird. That
and
makes
I
sense
always
to me
thought
in
that
a
it was
weird
my
way.
little.
Doesn't it?
You know, I thought it was
Sure.
about my. I thought it was about my
Penis?
My little penis.
Privates.
Being Polaki.
Just privates
I
in
didn't
general.
realize that Polaki was general for
Well,
private parts in the Greek
That's
language.
nice. It's
to
like
know.
the United Nations, you know.
Yeah. But that was something that I was like, but it was something that I related to, and I said, they use Polaki. I go, okay, well, so that's a
all
very
Greek.
common.
They being Greek
it's
women.
all Greek to me.
It's all Greek.
It's all Greek.
What did they tell you about the Polaki, Demetri?
Clean it.
Clean your Polaki.
Make sure you
For everybody.
protect it.
Shave everything.
Shit. Well, now it's too young.
He
to
didn't get
shave.
that
Oh,
information.
goodness.
Not
So,
yet, at least.
You know, but again, it's one of those things. Like you and I were talking about the first movie,
Yes.
about the story where Aunt Vula goes, I had this mole. It looked like my twin sister, and like she was going off.
It was my
Which was my twin.
And my cousin Esther, her grandmother, like had the same exact story. And when she saw my big fat Greek wedding, she was like going, we all think that this is all personal to one another, but then we see it played out in this movie. It's like, oh my God, this is the way Greeks are. Like, we are crazy.
Yeah.
And we all share in this
And
thing.
you probably don't talk about it to each other because you're like,
No,
this
because
is too weird. I
if
can't
you
tell
were to,
anyone
if you
else.
were
Not
to
to another
tell a
family, at
stranger about
Yeah.
a mole that looked like my twin sister, they'd look at you like,
What's going on?
okay.
All right.
And I
let's say
love
it's
how
that guy.
the mole joke came back into this movie.
Where was that? I don't remember.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that.
like it
End of
was
the
so
movie.
quick,
Yeah.
but you heard it.
Yeah. It would look like Alaska. Was that what she said?
Yeah, she was walking away.
So I've got this mole, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, okay, I remember that.
She's walking away, literally off screen, and she brings up the mole. I'm like, yep, there it is.
Yep. So, so moving off again, Andrea Martin. I think whatever scenes that she was in, along again, this is why the elder statesman in this movie really shouldered a lot of this movie from the dramatic to the comedic. I thought they were fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Elena Kampouris, who is half Greek. She didn't think she was going to get this role, but yet she really, really wanted it. And she was, she'd gone on to say that had she not gotten this role, and she had seen the movie with somebody else playing her character, Paris, she would have been upset. She would have been, damn, that could have been my role. I thought she did a fine job. You know, I thought she did pretty good.
Yeah.
You're right. I agree with you to an extent that when we're first introduced to her, her anger is so much, like, you don't quite understand where it
Yeah,
comes from.
I wasn't able to get there.
But when
as
she
much as I wanted
softened
to.
up,
When she softened up, I enjoyed her performance for the rest of the time because I saw the layers. I saw the anger, the sadness, the love, everything was there. And because when you are from an ethnic family, as we actually all are sitting at this table,
Right.
there are so many different emotions because you
Absolutely.
are smothered. That is undeniable. You are smothered, but you love them so much and you see where it's coming from, but it still makes you mad that they're not giving you your own identity. So I got why. I just wanted to see a little bit more of that inner life.
yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of Elena's performances in anything. This is probably the first thing I've actually recognized her in. I think she was great. I think she was, and I don't mean this in a mean way, she was the epitome of what a teenage child,
Sure.
a teenage girl would have been at that state, at that moment. Just wanting to get out of the house, being smothered by her family, just wanting to go to college anywhere but there.
Right.
I completely believe that because I was in that position too.
Sure.
I mean, I'm from Illinois. I know what that's like. You want to go to other places.
Right.
My college applications, I sent it to 5 different states, not
Yeah.
Illinois. But
Yeah.
sure enough, I still went to Illinois.
Same
but
here, but not
but
Illinois.
like I know what it's like to just want to be somewhere else from where you grew up
Right.
with, and just get away so you
Absolutely.
can find yourself.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that plot point. We're going to get to that plot point, the college plot point in a sec. But I wanted to talk about, she was funny auditioning for the role. She said when she got the audition, she said it went to her mom's email. When I saw it, it was a jaw-dropping moment. I thought they're making a sequel after all the years. It was the last thing she was expecting, and she didn't feel like her chances were great. And if I didn't get the role, like I said, it's going to taint the way I see it. And I think it could have been me. Kim Purse noted that since she felt a lot of pressure going into the audition, she didn't initially want to tell her dad about it. He's the Greek father who's very proud. He played the first movie over and over as he raised me. So she grew up with the original, which is great. And he'd say, this is the finest film in all of filmmaking history, which I do not doubt for a second.
That's so sweet.
So, unbeknownst at the time, he's putting all this pressure as now she's auditioning for this sequel, which is and she gets it. And I'm sure.
I think that's
his
just a
mind has
clear indication it was meant to be.
Yeah.
More so.
Yeah.
That's just how the universe just works in that way.
It's true.
So, so that's it. I just find that as an interesting casting story, as well as I found it interesting. Although he had a small part in the movie, was John Stamos.
That was really weird to me.
No, it was so fun seeing him
It was
because
fun,
obviously
but-
it was just smart marketing on his part too.
Yeah.
Because like with Fuller House 2 or like the Netflix series coming
Yeah.
out around the same time, Uncle Jesse, who was Greek on the show, it makes
Sure.
sense that like him being Greek so much on that show, he's like, yeah, he can also be Greek in this movie. It makes
And he's Greek in
complete
life.
sense.
He's Greek in life.
It just makes sense.
And it's interesting why he got the job.
So tell us why, Demetri.
Because apparently his mom, who passed away, while I guess it was near being on her deathbed, it said, I want you to be in, if they ever film a sequel of My Big Fat Greek Wedding, I want you to be in the sequel. And Neo Vardalos had heard the story and put him in the
That makes
sequel.
me cry.
And I
That's
find
really
that, like,
beautiful.
yeah, I really do. And,
Like a love note to his mother.
well,
Okay,
it is.
I
And,
support
like,
that.
he's not, like, and again, he's not, what I really liked about it is that when you get a name like a John Stamos, and let's face it, he's a name, it could have been about him. But he literally was as supporting of a cast, almost a cameo to an extent. But I love the reveal, and you sort of kind of saw it coming. Come to the restaurant and bring your son.
I didn't
Yeah.
see it coming.
I had a feeling that
Yeah.
the son's gonna be like 5.
right. I like John Stamos' family in this film because it showed because we get so much of the Greek family,
Yeah.
we have to have a normal family just to compare them side by side.
Right.
And I liked that's what his character and his wife's
Rita Wilson, yeah.
who is also part of this,
In Greek.
Yes, and I liked how they were the quote unquote normal family to compare them to,
Yeah.
and you're like, of course, they're the ones that are thrown into
Right.
that craziness.
Yeah.
So.
So
Just for
that
laughs.
was the John Stamos story.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I think so. I thought so too. Want to talk about too Joey Fatone? It comes back.
I loved his character.
Yeah, his character is
So
really
fun.
Yeah, his
Yeah.
character is really his character is fun. He's a fun character.
I feel like they played him down in this film.
Definitely.
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
They more so like they toned him down. Because in the first one he was really fun, energetic, and you always goofed around with Ian in this one. And I liked how they gave him a more serious story.
Yeah, yeah, and and again, I guess for particular critics, maybe they thought that it was like his character comes out as being gay, and that was a big deal to an extent. And I guess some critics could say, "Oh, you didn't pay it. Like, there wasn't enough about it. Like you didn't treat it seriously." But I'm like, it's not that kind of a movie.
No.
And the mere fact that you have it in there, this really is a time of acceptance. And of course, Andrea Martin's his mom is like, we knew. It wasn't a secret. It wasn't, but I liked how it played out.
I thought
for
that
all
moment
involved.
was so
It
touching.
was a nice moment.
I loved it. I thought it was done really well. I mean, you saw it coming just enough where it was like, okay, I'm not shocked, but this is still a great plot point.
Yeah, and apparently he was sort of kind of like the last to know that this plot point was going to be in the movie.
Oh, really? He was?
Yeah. He said before the initial table read, another cast member approached him and said, "Hey, what do you think about the big reveal?" It was like, but he had yet to read it, and he started to panic. He's like, "What happens? Do I die?"
You can't have a death in this film.
Found out, he's like, "Oh, he was completely on board. Quite an honor to give me something like that. Not many people see the non-comedy side of me." But I felt that he played it very well. I knew that they had to do a lot of takes.
Oh, they did.
Of the reveal. Yeah, and Kirk Jones, the director, he just he wanted to capture a real moment. And, the first few takes weren't good because Fatone said wasn't there yet emotionally. So he just clicked and he delivered a beautiful, subtle performance. And I think that's what you need. Especially, you don't want to go... I mean, tell me if you agree with me or disagree, but I don't think you want to go overboard in a movie that's my big fat Greek wedding too.
No.
You want to, you don't want it to overshadow the rest of the movie, but you want it to fit in to be poignant. And obviously it struck a chord with you.
I thought it was perfect.
And you too, Marisa, right?
Oh, I thought it was great because in such a big family, we always see them pairing up with, someone's always married and they have kids. And he really was the only one stand out in the first one who didn't have a partner.
Right.
And it made sense that they kind of answered that question too in this one. It's like, oh. And I think with so much time has passed, even the homosexuality aspect of it is way more accepted now.
It's changed.
In 2016 than it was back in 2002.
I think that's why it was so great, because it's a sign of the times.
Yes, it's definitely a sign of the times. And I think they used that to their advantage to tell a story, and not in a terrible way, but in a great way, and actually gave positive light to it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And John Corbett too. He chimed in, and I think it's very funny. He's like, he felt that the move was smart, and noted that upon watching the original, this show is he was a fan. So he goes back, he watches the original, and after wrapping the sequel shoot, he goes, "I only see Joey's character as gay now." He goes, "Now I watch the original, I'm going, yeah, he goes, with no intentions of Joey ever playing the character gay, it ties in, you'll rewatch it and you'll say, of course he's gay, And,
yeah, I'm just thinking the moment in the first movie when he turns around and it's like, "Hey, and we're gonna kill ya, oppa." And I'm like, yeah, I can see it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. It's very, very interesting.
I love the first one.
Yeah, and the first one again, I like the first one. It gets it. It was funny, but I could point to scenes that felt sort of sitcom-y, trite. And I'm not saying that the same person couldn't make an argument about this, but I just found this movie to be funnier, and I got more emotionally involved for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I really I enjoyed that a lot. Was there any actresses who stuck out in your watching this movie?
I loved the little kid who was reciting all the Greek origins.
Yes.
Yeah, it was funny.
I'm trying to think of his name. It'd be
is it one of these kids?
Yeah, it'd be too easy to call him Nicky. But
Nicky Jr.
But he was so Greek. I'm like, oh no. I was in a good way, just this
Costa?
is
Was it Costa?
It might have
Or
been.
it had to have been Costa. Couldn't be Athena.
The little kid, and every time he would tell,
or Aristotle.
Yeah, every time he would tell a Greek origin, it was just so spot on. And who could have done it better than Gus himself but this kid?
Yeah. Well, one of the great scenes is, go ahead, pick a word, and the kid throws out chimichanga.
Of course.
Jimmy, of course. Jimmy stands for, he goes, maki, which is seasoned beef, and they put chimichanga, and then they cut to the grandfather. There you go.
There you go.
That was brilliant.
That's the silliest thing. But again, my favorite was, Greeks, we invented hockey. And he goes, yeah, ice, pagato is pago, puck, hockey. There you go. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty convincing, I gotta say. I'm all right, I'm on board.
Oh,
yeah.
Listen, you would talk to
All
my
in.
mom, and she'll you'll believe that Boston really is the Athens of America.
Yeah, I think it's just great that they took a running joke from the first movie and he made it even better in the second one.
Yeah.
This is great. And the kids were great. Let's be honest, like the kids were really good in this movie. I like them a lot. Gia Carides as Nikki. Was
she's
fun to see
fantastic.
her again.
She's always fun to watch.
I really enjoyed seeing her. I enjoyed seeing all these people. Louis Mandylor as the other brother, as Tula's brother. I think
yeah,
was really
he was great.
good.
And I liked how they still showed he was very creative and, painting, and he's like, I can design this.
His
And
for
he
you."
was in that scene
Yeah.
with the computer. I thought their physical comedy in that scene, trying to gouge out each other's eyes, was ridiculous.
It was so brother sister fighting.
It was
like,
so
if you
real.
ever get that physical with your sibling, it's true.
Did you notice in that scene, like, Nia Vardalos looked, to me anyways, as if she was just doing everything not to crack up.
Really?
She looked to me like again, it's chemistry.
Yeah.
Chemistry. I believe that they were having such a good time and that this was an improv kind of thing. And I just, again, it doesn't work if you don't like each other.
Yeah.
Like, or it's really good acting if you pull it off. But it
was so
I like that.
believable
It was
as
so
brother
family-esque.
sister.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, of course, who else gets a bigger role was Yaya, played by Bess Meisler, who they honestly didn't... Like, she was the one that they did not think that they would get back. Like Nia
understandable.
Vardalos says, like,
And why was that?
her age.
How old is she? Do we know?
I don't know if IMDb will tell
Up
us.
there. I liked her
No,
because
they don't have anything on her.
She doesn't
For
have
someone-
to speak, and
yeah.
she's so funny.
for someone who literally, well, I mean, in this movie she had a line, but like for someone who doesn't speak, she was by far just the physical timing of her character and where they place her in the most random spots.
Underneath
like,
the table with the spanakopita, I was dying. And then everyone eats it. The Northwestern rep eats it.
oh my god, that was.
Yeah, he goes, no. Yeah.
And then with the lingerie
The
undergarment.
lingerie in the
I was
streets. It's great.
dying.
And then she's
So
in the
funny.
bridal thing. And then when they do her hair.
She looked hot.
Yeah,
She was amazing.
She was great. And
You know
it
she
was,
has hair?
And it was funny, again, too. She was like, we're prepared, like, apparently Nia Vardalos went to her, look, what do you want? We're prepared to work with you. What do you want? She goes, she says something to the effect of, I want my daughter or granddaughter on the set every day. And they're like, done.
It's like,
done.
by the way, we'll also feed her.
Yeah, and
Why not?
and that to me
She'll
is
have other
fantastic.
kids to play with.
Fantastic. And this is in testament for a sequel, is that we got more of these characters, but they didn't. And sometimes in a sequel, yeah, you want it bigger, better, funnier, and sometimes you get more, but you're really getting less. You know what I'm saying about certain sequels?
They're trying to pack too much in almost.
Or they just try
That's
to do
also
too
like-
much of what they did before, and they just try. This movie, it was just enough, but they gave Andrea Martin more to do. They gave Lena Kazan more to do. They gave Yaya more to do, but they did it in such a way that it was funny, could be poignant. Like the scene when she's talking to Paris. And she was nodding her head, and then she was like, what was the exact quote you said?
She
You
said,
had it.
"It's what I want." And then she grabbed her hand. She goes, "But you don't."
But you don't.
But you
Oh.
don't.
Yeah.
Chills, tears, the whole works.
Yeah,
That
and
was such a powerful moment.
And it's something
It's
that a
so
Yaya
much-
would say. Yaya
Yeah.
means
Grandma.
Grandma. It was so much emphasis and emotion behind so little words.
Yeah.
And you felt it. And anyone who was going through that experience or have like passed on those words of wisdom to someone can definitely understand like what makes you happy.
Right. So
So in the end, she cares about her family.
which is going to bring me to that plot point. Okay. You know, for a couple of minutes, I actually believed, okay, so she's going to go to the Chicago school, stay at home. And I almost, to an extent, I knew that she begrudgingly gave it up, but to an extent, I felt that the character was almost comfortable with making that decision until she had the conversation with Yaya. And from that point, you knew that she was going to change her mind. So it wasn't a big surprise. However, I will say this, that once she went to prom with that boy, and found out that he was Greek, and I found, and there was a shot of them in the car, and it was an exterior shot looking in the window, and she had this smile on her face because he was Greek. I was like, I wonder if she might rethink. Now, would this be too much television? Would it be too obvious that she's now going to stay because maybe she wants to cultivate this relationship? Did you think from that point that she was still going to go away to school?
No. I thought she was still going to New York.
You still thought she was going to go to New York?
I liked how her character made the decision based on her. It wasn't based on her family. It wasn't based on this guy that she's meeting and could have a potential relationship. It was her decision. It was what she wanted. And at the end of the day, she wanted to go to New York and be that standout away from her family. It was for her. Yeah. And I like how it wasn't other people dictating her decision.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't for a minute think she wasn't going to go to New York. I did think that she would pursue the relationship with him, though, and try long distance, maybe just because too many stars aligned with it, you know?
Yeah.
The fact that he was Greek, the fact that they started to understand each other, they had a great time together, the kiss, everything. I was hoping they'd try for long distance, but obviously I didn't get my wish.
Well, that'll be in 3. I mean, well, let me ask you this, because you bring up a good point, because I got through Paris anyways. I did get an arc that she understands. Okay, so she meets Greek boy. Mm-hmm. Greek boy says, "Your family's not even close to being as loud and greasy as my family. You know, I'm Greek too." And all of a sudden, there's the bond, and then they both have the understanding. Especially when he shows up at the house and he gets tackled by the kid, right? When he just walks up and he's like, "Yeah, hey, like no surprise, of course, that's gonna happen."
I like that because also, but in a way, I had a hard time believing his family was even crazier than, because I was like, so where's your family? How come they're not literally standing 3 feet behind you watching you go off to prom? Right. So it would have been fun to see a whole nother Greek family, like compare those two, like who's crazier. But again, it would be like just way too many faces on screen.
I will say this, and I agree with you, but in part answer to that question, Greek girls treated differently than Greek boys. And you sort of kind of saw that in the original My Big Fat Greek Wedding, you know, in a sense, with Tula's brother. He was treated differently, in a sense, than Tula was, you know. But I think keeping the focus on Tula's family is what it is. You know, if there is a sequel, which Nia Vardalos says it's so funny because that's the one thing now that she's being asked after My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2.
There's another sequel.
And, you know, she's asked that, and she goes, "Are you talking to John Corbett?" Because apparently John Corbett's like, "Do you have a 3? Do you have a 3, you know, waiting in the chamber?" And she actually says, "I do, and it's not going to take me 14 years to write it." So she already has an idea, and we already know that John Corbett's on board, which I think is really...
And so are we.
Yeah.
We'll probably watch it.
Which I think is really interesting. Nia was also asked about what was one of her favorite scenes to do, and she said going back to the dancing Zorbas.
And I love how dancing Zorbas was still a foundation for all of them.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's such a generational thing for literally, and even Paris is still working in the restaurant, and I liked how that just grounded all of them.
Yeah, I agree. And she said walking onto that set with the production designer, he literally tile for tile remade the diner, and when she found her glasses, she was like, I felt like I was back in the original movie again. She goes, it just overwhelmed me that here I am playing Tula so many years later. And I found that to be very, very, like, you know, and again, it just goes to show what the character meant. And I'm very glad that she found the inspiration. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes it's a double-edged sword, I think. Everybody wants you to rush to make a sequel. You know, and it's rare that
everyone rushes you to make a sequel if you did so well on the first one. If you did so well,
but they want to rush you to make a sequel, and sometimes when you rush it, that could ruins the sequel.
It ruins the first one.
It's rare, right? It's rare that a sequel can be better or even as good as the original. A lot of people, the sequel, you know, you're a little bit disappointed. On the flip side of that, you wait 13 years to make a sequel, and you're like, that's a lot of time passed. A lot of time passed. you wonder, is it too long? Do people not care anymore? Have people forgotten about it? And I think it was bold for her to say, okay, we're going to make the sequel. It was still an independent. Playtone does it. They have Universal distributing it. It wasn't Gold Circle. I mean, the first one was distributed so much differently than this one is that, I don't know, I mean, its opening weekend on this movie was $20 million, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was number 3 in the
It
box
was number 3 in the box office. Oh, its opening weekend was 17. It opened up number 3. It's done about $24 million, right? But here's the thing. The first one opened up to $2 million. But the first one went on to make, I believe it was $237 million.
Oh, so much money.
So, there's a great interview with Katie Couric on Yahoo.
Okay.
And she talks to Neo about, like, what are your expectations? Like, is there a lot of pressure? She's like, yes, there is. She goes, but it's a different kind this time because things have changed so much. She goes, we need audiences to come opening weekend to this movie. She goes, the original took everybody by surprise, but the original played in theaters for about a year, which is true.
Yeah.
The distribution pattern, like 13, 14 years ago, a movie can stay in theaters, and My Big Fat Greek Wedding was so popular that it played all over, and it could change theaters, and it literally could stay in theaters for about a year. But that's not the case now.
Nope.
If you're not pulling in numbers, there's so much product coming out. Our Blu-ray,
pull you
DVD,
from
they'll
theaters
pull
if
you.
you're not
They'll pull
doing
you
well.
after. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's tough.
So I get it. Like, I don't think that My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2 is going to make $237 million, but considering I think the budget on this movie was, did you find anything on this?
Let's see.
By the way,
I had it around 18 million.
That's what I.
And that's not including PNAs.
That is, yeah.
not including what?
P&A, prints or hard drives and advertising. What were you going to say?
Oh, I just wanted to say I've been looking at the chat. Anthony wants a shout out. He says, love the show and like this movie.
Hello, Anthony.
Hi, Anthony.
Mary Grievous says Papus are stubborn. And it's hard to teach older Greeks to use the computer and technology. It's exhausting.
It is.
And
It
true.
is. It is.
Oh, and he says
So-
Greeks definitely know how to lay on the guilt, too.
So, no,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you very much for chiming. Thank you for being with us live for My Big Fat Greek Wedding, too.
Yeah, we love you guys.
Yeah, we really do. And again, this is the kind of movie that, this is not the Batman, Superman audience visual.
Nope.
Right? But I'm glad that we're able to talk, and we even have people on board live to catch this. So, okay, so going back to that Katie Couric interview, she was so right. Nia Vardalos was saying that this movie's not, she basically was saying this movie's not going to play, as good as we think it is, it's not going to play in theaters for a year. And she's right. And so get that opening number. I still think that they're going to make money. So far they have 32 million worldwide box office, which is, not too shabby for a movie that cost 18.
Yeah, I mean, they already made their money back with this film. And I think that's also just a testament of the time that 2002. It feels like not as many people were focused on the opening numbers of what makes a successful financial movie compared to. Technology has changed so much that we already get those numbers immediately in the first 3 days of an opening of a film, and people dictate how well a movie's going to do just based on the first 3 days.
Well, I can tell you from my meager experience, the way that the original was distributed, it was by Gold Circle. They had no idea this movie was going to be as big as it was. Okay, Gold Circle as a distribution company did not have the technology that bigger studios had to input grosses. So some are saying that the gross could even be higher than what they actually are showing because they were actually using ledgers. Oh, we got 25. Yeah, like
Oh
they
my
were
gosh.
they had
They're
no.
like on an Excel
they were
spreadsheet.
booking
they were
this-
working
they were
on
booking it-
Gus's computer.
They were booking on Excel spreadsheets. That's how they
That's
were
crazy.
booking this into theaters. They didn't have,
Well, good for them.
so.
With
It
a
was
little hard
always-
work
they
and
want.
elbow grease, you can
Yeah.
do anything you want, folks.
And Windex.
Yes.
Windex.
And Windex.
Yeah, you gotta have the
Windex.
Windex. Spray it on your computer. It works
Windex
really well.
works. So, another thing that I want to talk about. So, the other thing that Nia Vardalos goes into, and I think she succeeded, is she wanted to write. She writes strong women characters, and I think in a movie like this. This movie is filled with strong women characters, as any Greek family has their strong women characters. But she said something that I thought was really fascinating. She said, yes, I write strong women characters, but I have to make strong men characters too, or else it doesn't work. She goes, you have to pay attention to the other faction and write their characters well, or else it doesn't work, and you become... It doesn't ring true. And I found that so, it was really great that, yes, I can write for a strong Greek woman, or I can write a strong woman, my mom, Aunt Vula, my character, even her daughter. I mean, but if you don't have the strong man too, and don't misunderstand me. You
like strong men.
Easy,
I think strong
Not that there's
characters in
anything wrong with that.
general.
Yes.
It's an important thing to
Yes.
do. And we shouldn't give precedence to women or men. It should all be equal.
It should.
And that's what the whole feminism fight is about in general, is equality. And I think that's beautiful that she did that.
Fighting the good fight every day.
And I find that to be what a great attitude to have, especially in this day and age, in this business, this industry we're in. She also shouted out, she goes, we're in an age now, she goes, where women are becoming, she even shouted out to Amy Schumer has Trainwreck. She goes, Mindy Kaling show. She goes, there are women out there who are writing great female characters. And I appreciate the shout out, because I mentioned Trainwreck earlier in the show. It's a much different movie than My Big Fat Greek Wedding too.
Yes, it is.
I found it to be hysterical.
But I get that, strong females who can also be funny. I mean, and that's so, nowadays we're finding that, because hello, Ghostbusters is coming out with all strong 4 female leading characters. So I think that's also just times are changing, and I think that's so great of Nia to point that out, because just because she can write to strong women voices and whatnot, that shouldn't lead the men to the side and be like, oh, we're still here,
Yeah, because ultimately we're human beings, and we all need to have strengths, and when we're strong, we make our counterparts stronger. So that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, so going with that, and I think she succeeded. I really do, in giving the mom a little bit more, giving Vula a little more, Mana Yaya a little more. I thought that was fantastic. One thing that I had to give a shout out to a friend of the show, Christopher Lemertz, who did the music to this movie.
Wow.
Okay. He's been on our show before. We interviewed him. He was on the show for Horrible Bosses too. I should have known that he may have had a hand in My Big Fat Greek Wedding too, when the Greek version of White Wedding shows up in this movie.
So good.
It was hysterical, but that's what he does. That's his strength. He could pick cool music that perfectly fits into the movie that you're watching, because it's what the characters would be thinking and cool. I love that. I thought that I was just laughing. I was like, wait a minute. Oh my God, that's White Wedding in Greek.
I thought it was a really good rendition. In fact, I'd like to put it on my running
I kind of want to
playlist.
download it on iTunes right now.
So a shout out there.
As technology, you guys.
I do want to talk a little bit about. We'll talk a little bit about reception. We talked about the grosses, but I want to talk about audience, and I want to talk again. This is one of those movies where the audience and the critics are
completely different,
polar opposite.
Yeah,
and I got to be honest. I don't understand the hate. Rotten Tomatoes currently 24%, which I don't understand.
Well,
I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't get it. I mean,
that's significantly low. That's
What
like
was
no.
the
What were you
reasoning?
expecting out of this film?
Were
Were you expecting a humongous fight?
This is how nasty
something?
some of the reviews were about this movie. My Big Fat Greek Wedding to consider this the divorce. I was like, wow, what the hell movie did you see? Like, you have ice in your face? Like,
Yes, ice.
you know, I don't get it.
Those people are miserable.
Cold.
They're miserable, and maybe they're feeling sad because they don't have a big fat Greek family.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, I can't imagine what else it is. I mean, no, it's not like the next Citizen Kane, but that's not what we were looking for in this movie. We were looking for a heartwarming family film that's going to make us laugh, going to make us feel, and that we can leave feeling good about. And it did exactly that.
And like I said, right off the top, I was so surprised that I came out saying I thought it was funnier than the original. There was going into a sequel that's coming on 13 years of its original. My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2, I did not think that I was going to enjoy it as much as I did. And then I come out saying, it was funnier than the original. And I start reading these reviews off of Rotten Tomato. I'm like, the hell movie did you see? Like, were you really expecting, like, a train wreck kind of a movie? Like, did you see the original? Like, and again, I'm not going to argue that this is a fantastic movie, but it's a good, safe, heartwarming.
It's a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
It makes you feel good. I think there's nothing not to like about it. For what its purpose was, it fulfilled exactly that.
Yeah, and Demetri, to your point, I think it was also twice as funny in this film because they had the same jokes from the first one, same emotional beats, but yet then they added new jokes to this one. So I still laughed at the first jokes I've already heard, and then the new one. So it was twice as funny.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, they expanded on it. They took the root word game, and then they pass it off to the kids, and they make it work. Yeah, I thought that was funny. Now, we're talking about the big polar opposite on CinemaScore, which this is a company that actually goes out opening weekend and gets actual audience reaction. So the audiences give My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2 an A-.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yep. I agree.
I think so.
I completely
I mean,
agree.
I just want to know what the hell people were thinking going into this movie. That, considering, too, that this is what I found shocking, was the original got 76% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is high. That's a high number.
I get the 76 for the first one because you got to remember that was it's an original story.
Sure, absolutely.
No one has really seen that play out on screen in that way. I mean, if you lived it, great for you. But for everyone else to realize, like, that's a kind of family that we all kind of wanted to know and love.
Sure.
So there was the originality aspect that people love because it was so new to them.
Right.
And I think this one, they were maybe expecting something new. But it's like, it's the same family you're literally watching. You can't get that same original love that you had because it was the same people.
I get that. I mean, but again, I think, too, that character comedies are hard to do in this day and age. Like, and this is a character comedy. And to prove how hard it is to do a character comedy, after My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2 came out, how many, like, freaking...
I love Marisa.
We're getting closer to
Yeah, I just think that... Look how many rip-off movies tried to come out after My Big Fat Greek Wedding. There was a lot that went straight to video. They tried this formula. It didn't work. It couldn't work because it was done so well in the first one. So I don't know. Like I said, I think it was really bold. But when you have an $18 million budget, which again, and Neverdalis is quick to point out, we're still independent. We have distribution rights. Universal is distributing the movie, but they didn't produce the movie. And when you get everybody on board, I think that says something about what you set out to do and accomplish, and I think they all succeeded.
Yeah.
In making good entertainment.
And I think maybe one of the things, and not really like going against them, but that could maybe add to the fact that why their critics' ratings are so low is that we have these characters, they're back, but yet we only focus on like a handful of them, and the rest are still kind of, I don't want to say one dimension, but like they haven't grown.
Periphery.
Yeah, they haven't.
Fine.
We didn't go more in-depth, layered character development. I mean, you can't do that with so many people on screen. You can't.
That much of a
Time.
family.
If it was
There's
a TV
no time
show,
for that.
fine, there are episodes for that, but
There's
not
no
in a
time.
movie.
Yeah.
And I get that. I was like, if people were expecting character developments for everyone, no, it's just not possible.
No, there's not enough time. And again, I think giving it to the elder statesmen of the movie, where you gave them more to do, and they were very funny. Another thing that I really appreciated about this movie. It didn't overstay its welcome. This movie comes in at about 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Right?
Short and
It's
sweet.
short and sweet. I mean, you're in. It's done. I didn't feel like I was looking at my watch. I didn't feel like this was a boring movie. I laughed from beginning to end.
Right.
And I was like, by the time it was done, I was like, that was a fun night. That was a fun night at the movies. And I say God bless Universal for distributing this theatrically, because somebody could have argued, nah, do it straight to VOD. And if you had done that, you would have left money. You would have left $20 million, $17 million opening weekend on the table. And right now we're at like 25 or whatever. You don't do that. This movie, again, the audience that I saw it with, laughter is infectious. I don't care whether you're seeing a train wreck or My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2. When an audience is laughing, you're laughing with them too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my theater was completely sold out. And the guy who's sitting next to me, he was like probably mid-30s and whatnot.
Was he Greek?
I don't know. He was laughing way more than I even was. So, like, it was funny all around. Everyone was laughing in my theater, and people loved it. And people
laughing
clapped
hard,
at the
not
end
just
of
like
it.
a ha.
Yeah.
It was
like...
a
how was your
hard belly
movie
laugh.
theater? How was your
high-pitched
movie going?
giggling from him.
It was like that as well. It wasn't completely full, but it was the fullest movie theater I've been in a long time. Mostly when I go to the movies lately, it seems there's like 2 or 3 people there. It's been weirdly vacant. This one was very full. Burbank AMC, shout out. It was really nice, and it was really nice to hear people laughing from their gut.
Yeah.
I feel like there's just so much tragedy in the world. Every day there's a new terrorist attack. It's just nice to be around people who are having joy. And I thought that's what this film brought.
And again, a good comedy as the movie-going experience, it's so infectious. Mm-hmm. And that's what this movie did. Favorite scene for either one?
There's so many just good moments in general. I liked how they didn't take the time because everyone was already established. The first one, we had to build a relationship between Tula and Ian.
Right.
So that took up a lot of time. But this one, like, they just went straight to the wedding.
Right.
And that was still fun to watch.
Yeah.
And, like, I loved, of course, everyone just getting ready. Just the hair and the salon scene was always fun.
Yeah, the salon scene was very fun, too.
Yeah.
I love the one with Mana Yaya with the hand grab. I love the scene where she told her to shave everything. I die. Any scene that Aunt Vula was in, Andrea Martin, was amazing.
I'm in charge.
Yeah.
She
was so great. Oh, when she's under the table with the spanakopita. And we've pretty much mentioned everything that I... I love the makeout scene in the car. I thought that was brilliant.
Yes,
Oh my
that
God.
was
With the
fun.
flashlight.
That is so funny.
What are you doing?
You will not have a house for that.
that they bought for them.
Yeah.
I mean, the scene where Aunt Vula, like, where they're corralling the troops, and it's like, how did everybody get here? It's like, telegram, telephone, telegreek. And what's funny about that is Nia Vardalos, when she finished her script, she calls John Corbett on his birthday to tell him, we're going to go forward with the sequel, and then I had to finish the script and was going to send it to him. And then I picked up the phone and got to call the other cast members, but I only told 2, because by the time I got to the 3rd, 4th, 5th calls, they had all called each other. Telegram, telephone, telegreek. They all knew by the time she went.
That is so funny.
That to me is very funny.
And that just shows, like, how...
Testament.
Yeah, just how well they just kept in contact with each other over all these years.
Yeah.
That they were still like family.
Yeah. So let's hope that it doesn't take another 14 years.
Let's hope.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So well, why don't we go with our closing? I can say this. At the wedding reception, they were playing. I had this song in my head. This is another thing my mom would say a lot. She, whenever Hopopo Maria, and here this song is playing Hopopo Maria. All right.
Yeah.
Now, did you know that song actually was written for our great Maria Menounos?
Are you serious?
No.
Oh.
April Fools.
Oh!
I wasn't believing that. I'm like,
I got you for a second.
You look so...
you got it, Lauren.
You got
I'm
me.
like,
You look so earnest, Demetri. I got dude.
Demetri, not Ernest. Ernest goes to camp.
you got Lauren.
You're Jimmy.
So, and I'm Jimmy, hey. So, in any case, no, it was, but again, that's something that my mom would say. Hopopo Maria.
What does it
Maria.
mean?
It's just, it means, oh my head, Maria. Oh my God, Maria. Oh my, but you say it in like, Hopopo Maria. Like when you're in this like desperation.
Like Santa Maria?
Throw my hands up in the air and I'm resigned to, it's like, oh, Popo Maria. And I'm
That's
like,
fine.
here's the song of Popo Maria. That's hysterical. I was like, just like those little things, I was just like cracking up at. You don't have to be Greek to enjoy the wedding scene because it was hysterical to see everybody dancing and, that was
I love
really
the
fun.
wedding. The wedding was awesome, and I liked how they had a second pass, and even the joke with Ian's family.
Yes.
It was like when she was walking down the first time, like the spitting. I was like, there it is. I was like, where's the spitting? And there it is. And it was so funny because it came from the American family, not the Greek family.
And I want to bring, we're about to wrap, but that scene at the wedding I thought was very nice between Tula and Ian.
Oh yeah, like renewing
how
their wedding
vows. They're unofficially
That's so
renewing their
sweet.
wedding vows, and they
yeah.
were just going around.
You gotta remember, because
the way it
we
was directed was
loved,
really nice.
Yeah, we loved the first movie because it was those two who was getting married. That's why we had a second one.
Yeah, and I like how you want to get married? Like it was a good. What?
No.
Is there
Like
another comment?
the chat video is playing while we're talking, so it's always funny to watch yourself like 5 seconds
30
later.
seconds.
And have there been any other comments before we start to wrap up? No? Anything good? No? People.
Dominique said, great accent for you.
Well, thank
at
you,
the
Dominique.
beginning.
There you go. That's what I do. I grew up with a Greek mother, and I've had the Greek parents. So I sort of know the accent, sort of kind of good, especially when I talk like my mother. Demetri, ti canis vere buffo.
What does that mean?
What are you doing, you idiot?
What?
So
Let's leave it with
so
that.
let's leave it with that. So final parting shots, parting impressions.
I love this movie. I'm definitely going to buy it when it comes out on DVD.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're listening to us, so obviously you've seen it. But I think it's so good to have a clean family movie out within all the crap of the, I shouldn't say crap, but like all the craziness of DC movies, Marvel movies, just like oversaturation of just things constantly thrown at us. And it's nice to have a family that we loved 14 years ago to watch them again, to have fun. And it's clean. And that's so what we need right now.
Yeah.
And to hear a human story instead of aliens or superheroes or anything of that sort. It's just good to hear a story about a family.
Yeah, it was a breath of fresh air. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my action movies, my horror movies. I love a good, I like a good raunchy comedy. I don't mind the R-rated comedy. But it was a breath of fresh air to come and see my Big Fat Greek Wedding too, which is quote unquote safe. There was a lot that I could relate to. In some cases, even more than the original movie. I think they did a very good job. I think Nia and team did a very good job. If she decides to do a third, I will more than likely. I'm going to be there.
I've already bought my ticket.
So. Yeah, so there you have it, folks. Marisa, where can people find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Serafini TV.
And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Lauren LoGrasso.
And you can support me on Twitter. Up with the bazooki. Up with the bazooki.
Opa!
You can support me on Twitter at DMovies1701. Want to thank you all for joining, watching, listening, being part of the discussion. It means so much to us Greeks that you would listen good. So thank you very much. Keep tuning in to the Popcorn Talk Network and all of our shows like DC Movie News and Jedi Alliance and of course Anatomy of a Movie. Thank you very much for watching. Yasu.
Namaste. It's actually a Greek word.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the rest of the Anatomy of a Movie staff, we would like to thank you for listening and subscribing to the show. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email or tweet us. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been Anatomy of a Movie.